Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of What We Do in the Shadows, The Trial. And this episode was fucking great. I'm glad that these episodes that they're making are like 30 minutes because this just shows how great this show can really be with the escalation of a joke. Because we're going through and we're getting the fallout of what happened to the Baron and all that, but we also get certain jokes laid throughout, and then you just see them pop up later, and it's just fucking great. So we see that they're dealing with the aftermath of what had happened with the Baron being exposed to sunlight, and they're like, oh shit. They are first in the beginning of the episode are still on the drug blood. They're messing around. They're trying to put the Baron back into his coffin, and he falls apart, and half of him is on the floor, and Laszlo's making the joke, hey, he's coming on the floor. Frickin' Nandor thinks that Guillermo is in the room, but it's actually the Stairmaster, and they're just fucked up. Then we shift over, and they're like, hey, where's Guillermo? And he's got the little stress thing that the Baron had picked up. He's fucking freaking out in the garden like, oh shit. So we then go to the night, and they are deciding to bury the Baron's remains, even questioning if they actually went through with it themselves. They're like, nah, I don't know. We could have done it, but I doubt we did. We floated the idea, but they're getting ready to bury him. They give him his last sip, which is important because we learn throughout that one of his monikers is the Undying, and we see that when they give that last sip to him, his eyes flare out. So I don't think that the Baron is actually dead. Now, granted, that does mean he is split in half at the moment, so it's going to be intriguing to see what vampire powers will be like regenerating back that portion if he does get into a better stable state. But of course, Colin comes out and acts like a dick and hey, just to let you guys know, I'm beating off you right now as he's just like needling them and everything. It's like, oh god damn it. And then we see these ravens flying around and it becomes a giant ass fucking storm, and they get back into the house and like, well, maybe they won't do anything, and there's like slamming into the windows and everything, and they're freaking out. And then Guillermo's like, hey, there's like a floating lady that wants to speak to you on the front porch. She's like, okay, let's see how this goes. And she says that the Vampiric Council is like calling on them for what happened with the Baron, and we get a funny little thing where Nandor's like, but you could have just used the phone. And she's like, well, you could have used the Ravens. It's like, how do you use the Ravens? And you could have taken one and said, yeah, we got the message. It's like, yeah, okay. As she then disappears and like, she gave them the address that they had to go to, and they continue on. They go out, they go to the trial and all that. She's like doing her cool ass disappearing and floating throughout. I really like the floating woman character. She was just an interesting, funny ass addition. They're going through, they get to this kind of waiting room, and we see it's like two people in there, and Nandor and the rest of the group are put in there while the floating woman takes Guillermo to the familiar room. And at first you think they're going to eat him, but she's like, oh no, there's a familiar room and all that. They're going through, and here's an important bit. Guillermo's kind of like messing with the stuff on the wall, and there's this torch, and he accidentally breaks it. She's like, no, they're LEDs. I mean, he's first trying to cover his own ass by saying, oh, I was just trying to get my face warm. And she's like, yeah, those are LEDs. Fire marshal have a fucking fit in here if we had that shit going on. And at first, I didn't think it was going to be important. It does become later on. So we see him going to the familiar room, and he's trying to fit in with the familiar. We see this old dude talking about how, oh yeah, it's been years that he's been waiting, but yeah, they'll make me into a vampire. And he brings up the fact that he hasn't really met any familiar that has ever been turned into a vampire, and neither have any of the familiars in that room. So I kind of like that idea that is now floating around in Guillermo's head. We see that kind of going through towards the end of the episode as well. So I'm like, ooh, character development. So we see that our main three are talking with these two people in there, and at first we think that that is what's going on. They talk about that they're trying to present their case to them, but we find out that they aren't the vampiric council. They've been in there for what they think is 1,000 years, but it's only been 90 years. They tell them it's 2019, and it's really funny because one of them, Garrett, is Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, and that comes into one of his lines because he is in there because he was falsely accused of turning a baby into a vampire. And earlier in the episode, when they're talking about all the stupid shit that they've done, Laszlo turned a baby into a vampire because he was bored. And everybody's like, that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. And he somehow got out of it by pinning it on someone else. And, of course, here's one instance where it comes back. And he's like, I've been waiting. And whenever I find that person, I'm going to stab him like 5,000 times with this hand and switch over and stab him with 5,000 more. And then they all agree for the poor baby. And that baby's been a vampire for like 90 years and is in the Bronx. And he floats the idea of like visiting it when they're talking about it the first time. And they're like, nah, it's kind of fucked up. And we see a picture of this little baby dressed like a vampire. And you're like, that is so both cute and fucked up. I'm like, what the hell, man? So we find out that they've been in there for transgressions. The woman in there has just defiled too much. And then the floating lady comes and grabs our group. And I love the dialogue that they're able to do with this series because we see these hooded and robed figures, and Laszlo's like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, exactly. I was thinking that myself, and when you hear a character make those kind of observations, it's great. As the floating woman is explaining, oh yeah, they've been practicing this stuff for decades. This could be the last time you're alive, so they kind of want to give you a show and everything. And they go through with their whole kind of spiel and all that. And then we see all of these people are like famous guest people that have been like connected to vampire movies and all that. We see the three main ones from the What We Do in the Shadows movie. We see the Ancient One. We see Danny Trejo. We see Wesley Snipes is in from Skype. It's crazy. They're talking about they couldn't get Tom and Brad and Rob. It's just nuts. It's a very effective use of cameos because they just fucking have fun with it, and just them just doing all this stuff. It's just nuts. Complaining about Wesley Snipes' internet connection and just talking shit about each other. It was really great. So they get down into the nitty-gritty of the trial of them asking if they've murdered the Baron. Of course, the Baron's familiar is brought forth as a witness, pretty much damning him to it. And then, of course, Guillermo is brought in, and he tells the truth. But all the vampires don't really think that he was able to do it. And he's like, yeah, I did it. I opened the door, and he... But the thing is, Nandor is kind of just so taken aback. He decides to go, you know what? Because the rest of the council was going to eat Guillermo. And Nandor's like, no, we did it. And of course, Laszlo and Nadja are like, what the fuck are you doing, man? But it's a good character development moment for Nandor because, yes, he does not treat Guillermo the best way that he can, but he does have a bond and connection with him and doesn't want to see him killed. Now, granted, is that for his own kind of power and glory? Potentially, but I felt like when he was saying that, he was really moved by Guillermo's loyalty to him and wanted to help him out. And then, of course, the rest of the Vampiric Council is like, all right, since you guys are going through this, what we actually thought in the first place, we're going to kill you the same way you killed the Baron, Sunlight. And they're like, all those in favor, raise your fangs, and everybody's doing it. And then out of nowhere, we see the baby, because the baby doing it too. I'm like, oh my god, they brought that in. They brought the baby in. And we see Colin was also part of it. And he's like, screw that. I'm just going to let this ride to what it needs to be. So we see them being taken off, and of course Laszlo tries to escape. The floating woman sends one of her familiars after him. Nadja tries to escape by doing a wall walk, and that was pretty cool. Even though it was a quick kind of scene, it was another awesome show of the vampires' special effects that they can do. And we see Nandor trying to take a weapon off the wall, but it's really stuck there, and the floating woman's like, it's for decoration. What do you expect? And then they're even giving Nandor shit like, you couldn't even take something off a wall. Guillermo is freaking the fuck out here too, and that broken torch that we had seen comes in handy because he's getting set upon by this other vampire dude, and he takes out a cross and lifts it up, and he goes, he recoils, and he kills another vampire. I'm like, anything that can go wrong with Guillermo does go wrong. He has racked up a 2 vampire body count at this point. He's not even trying. I mean, I can't wait to see, like, vampire hunters talk to him, and they're like, yeah, I've killed, like, 50 of these dudes, and like, and doing all these elaborate things, and he's just accidentally, like, kiboshed 2 of them, and just seeing him running and freaking out, it's so good. So we see that our 3 have been put in a well so that sunlight can burn them and all that, and it's getting close to the point we see that an umbrella pops up, and Colin's, of course, fucking with them, talking about, I'm like, yeah, they could return this since it's a non-food item, and Guillermo's there as well. And I'm like, fine, come on, just let us out of here. They come up in bat form, and Guillermo's, of course, carrying them and all that, and he's, of course, thinking about the familiar thing, because Colin starts bringing it up, like, yeah, isn't that why you're familiar if you want to become a vampire? And yeah, we see Guillermo kind of like having the thoughts turn into his head and all that. And Colin then goes to the one camera guy that's following them, says, you know what, you probably want to go get your camera guys, because they're in a very dangerous situation. And then we see at the end of the episode that the 2 people are still in there, and we hope that they get them out. It was such effective setup of what these jokes can be done with and executed with. It really reminded me of, like, really the best episodes of, like, South Park, where you've got a main through line, and then you've got little jokes done throughout that just escalate to points where you're like, oh my god, like the baby one was completely fucking amazing. I did not expect it to have that much of a payoff of Laszlo made a baby vampire. Then he framed someone for it, meeting that person, and then being judged by the baby vampire. And the same with Guillermo, where he broke a thing because he thought it was a cool-ass torch thing, and then it comes in later where a vampire gets killed on it. It just... I'm just so happy with how this show's working, and all the different kind of characters that just get brought up, but I'm glad that we've got a good focus on, like, Nandor and Guillermo. They're my favorites. Not that I hate Nadja or Laszlo, but I'm really liking that kind of dynamic, and I can't wait till we get to more of a storyline that focuses also on Laszlo and Nadja and seeing kind of what they do with their characters, because that new vampire that Nadja made and the Gregor thing should be pretty interesting to see how Laszlo kind of deals with all that when that pops up. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.